trade deadline show from Vets99.net. We are here today. I wasn't really expecting Fleury to be traded this early, but we got some breaking news to start out the stream. How are we doing though? Hope you guys are having a fantastic trade deadline day. 2 p.m. Central, 3 p.m. Eastern is our deadline dates, and hopefully we'll see some big moves. I know last year we got Verana and Manfa right at the end, so I'm hoping for some buzzer beater trades. But hopefully you guys are doing well. Let's get some Fleury hype or whatever you guys want to do. Let me know in the chat as well who you guys think wins the Fleury trade. We just saw that right before we went live. It was Fleury to the Minnesota Wild, straight from Chicago, for a second round conditional pick, which apparently if it's a condition as well, and there we go. We get it all right here. Thank you, producer Nick. Appreciate it. We got the conditions on that second round pick. It'll be a 2022 one, but it'll become a first round pick, and this is the big one. It'll become a first round pick if Minnesota reaches the Western Conference Final, and Fleury accounts for 4+ wins in the first 2 rounds. Now, the thing is, I predict this to be a second round pick. I don't think Minnesota, even with this deal, is going to be able to get to that spot, but I do think if Fleury is able to bring some of the playoff productions he's had over the past few years, then Minnesota has a much bigger chance, really. For me, a big problem with Minnesota was that goaltending. Cam Talbot was fine throughout this year, but we did see Kaapo Kahkonen at some points take his job a little bit. But with Fleury, you get a bona fide starter. You get somebody you can depend upon. And we also saw the trade resulting after this, where we had Kaapo Kahkonen being traded to the San Jose Sharks in a pretty decent deal. I need to load up that trade, actually, but it was a very interesting one, because I was thinking with the Fleury trade, would we see Minnesota trading somebody else on top of that? And we did see that. It was a pretty interesting one, but you see some of the Fleury highlights here. I mean, he's had a really interesting season with Chicago. I think in Minnesota, he's going to do very well, though. But we got 600 in this chat. Thank you guys so much for dropping by. We're going to be here until the trade deadline ends, and potentially even more for winners and losers throughout the entire trade deadline. So we hope to see you here throughout. We got Glenn, we got Tammy, Isaiah, we got Nolan, Brandon. Appreciate you guys dropping by. This is going to be an amazing one. And again, we're going to be breaking down all the trades as they come with graphics and everything. So even if you're in school or work or something and you can't actually listen to my voice, you're going to be actually able to see the trades as they come in. So that's a big bonus. But I think when it comes to this Fleury trade, I would say personally the team that wins it is Minnesota, mostly because I don't think it'll be a first round pick. I think Minnesota's likely going to lose in the second round or so. But I do think getting a guy like Fleury will drastically improve that locker room, and they could maybe sign him for another year or two and keep him until he retires. So I think overall Minnesota wins this deal, but let me know, Wild or the Blackhawks, in the chat right now, who do you think wins this Fleury trade? Let us know. Is Toronto making a deal? Well, we obviously saw the Giordano trade yesterday, but I do think Toronto is in store for another one potentially. As you can see as well, we got some of the top trades so far over the past week on the left. We got Drew to Florida. We got Marc-Andre Fleury now to the Minnesota Wild. Giordano to Toronto, which I think is a great move for the Leafs. You got Brendan Hagel going to the Lightning, and Hampus Lindholm going to the Bruins. Some pretty big trades so far, but we haven't seen most of the big names gone yet. Still a lot of guys like Ricard Raquel, Phil Kessel, Jacob Chikrin, John Klingberg on the board. A lot of interesting assets, and I feel like teams are going to get really desperate by the end of this deadline, honestly. I'm getting a lot of Wild winning the trade, right? Oh, Riker says the Wild. Any idea on if it's Minnesota's second or the second they got from Arizona? I'm pretty sure it's Minnesota's second. Fleury had no support in Chicago, so his season stats don't reflect his game. That's true. I think at some points, though, when it comes to Fleury, Scott, there were some points where I think that started to take a toll on his statistics as well when it comes to the workload that he had in Chicago. So I would say definitely on that. Going back to that Kahkonen trade with Fleury going to Minnesota, the Sharks end up acquiring goaltender Kaapo Kahkonen in exchange for Jacob Middleton and a 5th-round pick from Minnesota. So that was an interesting one for me. Obviously, with the Fleury trade, it felt like they had to get up some other goaltender or even have a player like Kahkonen maybe on the taxi squad or something come playoff time. But the Sharks do get, in my opinion, a goaltender with a lot of potential. So the trade itself is the Sharks acquiring Kahkonen for Jacob Middleton, defenseman, who was rumored with the Leafs as well, and a 5th-round pick. Let me know in the chat down below, y'all. The Sharks or the Wild, who do you think wins that trade? Specifically for Minnesota, it feels like they almost had to make that deal with Fleury coming onto the team. But honestly, getting a decent depth defenseman in Jacob Middleton and a 5th isn't the worst return, especially since they want to contend truly for this year. Middleton will be an everyday player. But I think for the Sharks, Kaapo Kahkonen is an excellent addition. They obviously tried to gamble with Aiden Hill this past offseason, and it hasn't exactly worked out amazing for him. And I think Kahkonen is another guy that has great potential, but hasn't quite unlocked it yet. So we'll see what happens. Is Georgiev going to get traded? I hope so. I really hope so. I mean, here's the thing. He had a great game versus Carolina, so if he continues that, I'll be happy. But I do think for the Rangers, if they're going to trade Georgiev, it has to be another goaltender coming back. I would have loved Kaapo Kahkonen on the Rangers for sure. Sharks easily win that trade from Hamza. Toronto, I don't think I understand the Kahkonen trade. He's better than Talbot and he's younger at this point. Yeah, that's what I was kind of thinking as well, Drew. I was kind of confused by that. I'm interested to see. I mean, for Minnesota, again, it feels like they're going for it. So maybe they see Talbot as the better goaltender. If they were to have an injury with Marc-Andre Fleury, maybe that would be kind of what I think. But honestly, I definitely agree with you. When Fleury was traded, I thought Talbot was a part of that trade, to be honest. But let me know in the chat down below as well. What trade do you guys see happening next? We have 3 hours to go until the trade deadline is